All right. Good morning or good day. Today is Tuesday, November 22nd of 2022. I'm Christopher Crystal with Financial Stockholm, and these are our thoughts and understandings of what's going on in the Swedish market. The views, of course, are not investment strategy, but just our interpretation of what's happening in the market. And so the Swedish press today is very focused on the weather. We are in winter now. So the electricity is going to be a little bit more expensive because it's a little colder and you have to take care of your electrical power stations and devote a little bit more energy, and you've had to winterize them. And we're in the first month of real winter now. We've had our first real snowfall across the country, and this becomes the focus of our stories in the paper for the last few days, talking about the weather and the snow and the chaos that it's created, which is a little ironic because as long as people have been living in Sweden, we've been known to have snow during our winters. So unfortunately, in Stockholm, the government is saying that they've used up all the resources available, or they've allocated all the resources available that they can to handle the snow. And so we'll see how that develops, because we are in the first month. And if that's a sign of, if we continue to have a strong winter, of how the economy will be impacted in December, January, February through to March, that's not a good sign if we don't have the budget for it. It's also not a good sign that Stockholm was not able to handle this 30 centimeter or over 15 centimeter dumping of snow that they got. When I first moved here 20 years ago, it was never a problem. And coming from New York, I was amazed to see that you could handle the snow and buses ran on time. There were problems with trains, but less so than we have now. And so it's an interesting development that the local infrastructure does not work as well as it could, or as it should, or as it had in the past. So many businesses told their employees, stay home, don't come in. And that's because we had a cancellation of public transportation services in many parts. So trains running in and out of Stockholm, many of them have been canceled. This extended to the airlines as well. Our local airline companies like Finnair had canceled a number of flights yesterday. Stockholm airport was inundated with snow, so you saw delays or cancellations for the airlines. And it's continuing, but as we get to a little bit of a midweek thaw, we might have a relief there, and we'll see how that develops. But certainly when you look at the power infrastructure and when you look at the overall infrastructure handling of this, it's not a good sign that they can't handle the first heavy dumping of snow, especially when we had up to 15 degrees centigrade the week before. So we've had a very mild winter up until now, temperature-wise, and we've had a very mild winter thus far with snowfall. So this is a little troubling, but I wouldn't read too much into it. It will affect us negatively on our inflation figures because electricity prices do go up. And in that, we're seeing food prices have gone up dramatically. And these are also in the core supplements or pieces of food like cabbage, potatoes. We're seeing a large increase in prices in the supermarket, and that hits right down at the smallest consumer, and the consumer that probably has the least amount of money to spend on extravagance. So this is a very negative sign. There are even articles about how German competitors to the Swedish supermarket like Lidl are having difficulty stocking shelves, and consumers there are having difficulties relying on that brand supplying them with food. Then on top of it, we have the ongoing spy stories. As we're joining NATO and we're looking at getting the installation of nuclear missiles, we're having difficulties with our own nation's security. So a couple of weeks ago, it was revealed that two people who worked within Swedish intelligence, they were brothers, had been spying for Russia for 10 years. And we know it's 10 years because the Swedish intelligence service had been monitoring them for 7 years while they were doing this. So these individuals were transmitting state-held secrets to Russia, and they're finally brought in after years of surveilling what they were sending and knowing this. And then today we have two more individuals that are being arrested, and they called in a wide array of Swedish defense forces. They brought in helicopters to search a house. So spying is being taken more seriously. And as we are applying for NATO, we'll see what happens with NATO, because the Swedish ambassador has been called by the Turkish government because of comments that were made, which led to a protest here in Sweden in front of the Turkish embassy, I believe. And there were protesters there because of what one of our government officials had said regarding Erdogan in Turkey. So there's a little bit of a diplomatic row. And then, of course, extending further than this on our politics, we see the campaigning has already started for the next mandate. The Center Party and the Social Democrats are really trying to rev up their base and get things going for themselves, while the Swedish Democrats and the Moderaterna and the Liberals are trying to figure out their power moves with each other and how to move. Clearly, they need to do something for the Swedish citizens, because while the global price for oil is coming down, and that's why OPEC cut their production, because they saw this kind of slump. We do see that the prices for diesel and gasoline have not come down in hand. And remember, those are front-running figures. If you look at diesel and gasoline, they're independent very often of oil, and that's because of the refining process they have to go through. So it doesn't look like we're getting any relief on diesel or gasoline. And despite the promises of taxes and rebates, the prices have stayed high and gone even higher. So when I refer to the other parties on the right side of the governing coalition, they need to start delivering results. I know it's only been a few weeks still, but it does not look good that they're not really focused and not able to deliver. And we have our usual amount of crime, although it took a little bit of a break because of the snowfall. And we had more household fires or car fires in Sweden as a result, but I guess people were just trying to keep warm as opposed to shooting each other. So, but we do need some delivery from the Swedish politicians. You do have one individual named Bjorn Söder, who's part of the Swedish Democrats. He's been a large proponent for nuclear, and he's been sharply critical of previous government and their policies towards the environment and creating zero emission while taking away nuclear. So we may get some development there. We do see that Swedish inflation will go up because of the winter cold and because of our poor energy grid. And then the pricing mechanism which Nord Pool uses, and Nord Pool is owned by Euronext. Nord Pool operates out of the UK and does forward day pricing to figure out the price for Sweden. And that group is composed of Scandinavians, so you have Norwegians, Swedes, Finns, Danes involved in it, and figuring out the pricing model for our Swedish electricity prices. But the key to it is building our infrastructure in Sweden and building our power structure. Now the company's reporting, you do see some criticism of the electricity companies. They're getting the widest amount of criticism. You do see companies like Autoliv reporting, and then you also see companies like Tele2 and the pharmaceuticals getting more of the benefit in the market. So Swedish citizens continue to save, and many of them have gone into Swedish small caps. One area that they seem to be avoiding is the real estate. We'll see how the real estate develops, but the housing prices are dropping while the rental prices are going up. So that tells you a lot of people were selling to buy into the houses, and the house cost, the inflation cost have gone up, and we have a low amount of builds for new housing and new rentals. So that's creating a problem there as well, which is the longstanding debate on why rent control creates a lot of these problems. And if you need reference on that, please see Thomas Sowell, and you can get a pretty good understanding of rent control and the effects on an economy. If you need further understanding, take a look at the San Francisco housing market, and that gives you an example of what's happened in rent control pricing, as well as if you look at the New York market, you'll see what happens with rent control pricing as well. So those are factors that are affecting us, but overall, the One of the positives that many people will run after would be in Germany. The producer price index is apparently going down. Now, some are going to be saying this is great because, hey, they can produce more goods at a cheaper price, while others would look at it and say, yes, but just like you're seeing in Sweden, where the production cost due to electricity is higher, what you're seeing here is now a reflection of less demand, creating a broader supply, therefore lowering the prices. So if producers are producing less because they wouldn't be able to sell it, the prices will come down. But if nobody's buying the objects produced, then that's a greater sign of depression. Now, Europe is, in my opinion, already in a recession. Most strongly into that would be, say, somebody like the UK or a country like the UK. And Sweden is effectively in a recession already. But we're not going to make those announcements till we actually see the full 2-quarter definition fulfillment. So right now, I think it's still a trader's market, and you don't have the fundamentals to go in and say, okay, here I am, I'm a long-term buyer. There are other asset classes that you could look at to invest in, but there's always money to be made in the market. So we hope you're able to do that, and we wish you a continued good day and success in your market trading. Thank you very much.